So, of course, I'm coming to you with very sad news about the passing of Dolly Parton. And we wanted to do, obviously, a conversation about the legacy of Dolly Parton. So, today on the podcast, I will be joined by my colleague, Lauren Giella, to talk about my interview with Dolly for that cover story a couple of years ago, our own memories of Dolly Parton, and what her legacy means now that she has passed at the age of 80. It's a hard day, and I wanted to get something up to share in this experience, and really remember an amazing human being that Dolly Parton was and will always continue to be, because her memory will always be for a blessing. So I have that, and then of course at the end a little clip of my chat with Dolly Parton. Thanks so much for checking out today's episode. Okay, so we are jumping on just less than an hour after the news of Dolly Parton's passing. And Lauren, I'm so glad that you agreed to chat with me, because you know me, of all people, I am a massive Dolly fan and did the cover story that we did at Newsweek on Dolly like maybe 2 years ago when her rock album came out. And I got to spend an hour with her. And I've always just been a lifelong fan of Dolly Parton, of course. So this is hard on everybody. We were just talking about how we're in shock that even though she had talked about the illnesses that she had been struggling with for the past year or so, this is still a shock, right?
Hmm. Oh, incredibly. It's just, you don't really know how to react. And someone was saying before, it's like, yeah, like she was 80 years old, but it's still like that doesn't matter if someone their age or if they've been dealing with sickness. It's someone as monumental as Dolly Parton to a loss
Yeah.
like that. You never can really prepare for that.
Yeah. And it's, what I find so interesting, of course, we knew this day would come, obviously, but like what I find so interesting about Dolly is, yes, she was an icon of country music. Yes, she was an amazing businesswoman. Yes, she was so immensely talented in a way that I don't think we'll ever see again. And I think people who are smarter than me can talk about her music ability and the real gift that she had for writing and for production. But what I find so fascinating is Dolly Parton as a cultural figure. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that didn't love Dolly Parton. It didn't matter your political persuasions, it didn't matter your background, where you are in the world. Dolly was just loved, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, I think right before this, Donald Trump just posted on a Truth Social that he's going to have all the flags at half mast for a week. And I was like, oh, this is one thing I can agree on of a policy that he'll put out. But I'm like, to that effect immediately, that it goes right to the president is saying, we were joking. We're like, well, this should be a national day of mourning. She's such an American icon, no matter who you voted for, no matter where you live, no matter if you even like country music or not. Everybody loves this woman, so it feels appropriate that type of a measure should be taken to honor a
Yeah.
woman like that.
Well, and one of the things, speaking to that, one of the things that I wrote about in my reaction to her passing for Newsweek.com, but also for the upcoming magazine, is that I think part of the real gift, there's this line from Steel Magnolias that Dolly Parton's character says, where she says, there is no such thing as natural beauty. And she says this thing, and it's of course so Dolly. I mean, even though it's a character she's playing, it's so
Mhm.
Dolly in that she had the hair and the nails and the wigs and the makeup and the shoes and all the stuff, it's just all the stuff. But deep down, her at her core, who Dolly is love, is just
Mhm.
loving everybody. And she never took any labels on political labels or feminist or any of these things, because she was just about loving everybody. And if you go to Dollywood, it's about everyone is family, and it's about connecting people through song and joy and laughter. And yes, some of the, frivolous things too, like hair and makeup and wigs and whatever. And it really is all about love. And if that's not a unifying message, and for her, it was a business strategy too, but a
Mhm.
unifying message, uh, I think that's probably one of her greatest gifts and her legacy in a lot of ways, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the work that she's done, again, I'm a fan of her for many reasons, but I think specifically the work she does with literacy, children's literacy, I think is something that is so monumental. And it's like it doesn't seem like a natural thing for her to do. It's like you're this country music star. it's not this path. But for her to take the time to do so many things like that, to give back to people, I think is great. I mean, I'm actually planning a trip to go to Dollywood already in October, so I'm curious to see how that's going to be. But I think it'll be this wonderful, just memorial to her legacy and who she was. And I'm sure the people down there are also going to feel a certain way about it too. But yeah, I just think it's something, and it spans all generations too, because I think, some people grew up with her and her music. I think a lot of people in my age know her honestly from Hannah Montana because of her close relationship with Miley Cyrus, and being on
She's
that
the
show.
godmother. She's the
She's
godmother of Miley. Yeah.
and so it really, like, it's interesting that she has all of these different access points, as just like you know her as just like the woman with the big hair and the big boobs and the rhinestones, or you know her from her music, or you know her from, whatever cameo she had in some TV show or some movie. Like, she really just, and again, from her charity work, from her outreach, like every corner of society she had a touch point into. And I don't think you can say that about many people.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got to chat with Dolly for that hour about her rock album, of course, she was selling something. She had something to promote. So that was the how it all got started. And but it was the first cover story I ever got to write for Newsweek. I've been here a long time at Newsweek, and I have lots of amazing opportunities, and I'm so grateful for so many of the people I've been able to chat with. But for Dolly Parton to be my first cover story and to be tasked with doing that and representing, Newsweek in front of Dolly Parton, it was a massive deal for me. Like a massive career high that has not been matched since, and I don't think ever will be matched ever.
Um,
And I'm so grateful that that was my first cover story, because I think in a lot of ways, my lifelong love of Dolly led me to that being my first cover story in a lot of ways. And you've written cover stories, you know how these things work.
yeah.
And it, for me, that hour was so much more than just her promoting her rock album, because we talked a lot about her career and her life and her thoughts on feminism and politics and all the things that, like, she wouldn't necessarily, obviously, she's a tough nut to crack. She was a tough nut to crack, and she wouldn't go in a lot of directions.
She's a Capricorn. That's how
Yes.
they are.
Yes,
As
yes.
a Capricorn, I see her. I'd understand that. Yeah.
But I'm going to open this up for you to ask questions about that cover story, because it's hard for me to sort of even express what that experience was like, but it was a real gift that I'm like super, super grateful for.
Yeah. Yeah. I was curious too, is going into that, of, was there something, I mean, it's such a great interview, and I encourage, people to look back and read that again. It was so fun and so clear that you loved her so much in that moment, and for your whole life. Was there something that surprised you about her? I think few people get that opportunity to actually speak to her and ask those questions. And like you said, she was pretty candid as she can be in that. Was there anything that maybe surprised you, or that you learned that you didn't know about her?
One of the things that I always am surprised by when I experience it, because like there is this thing of um don't meet your idols. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't meet the people that you love and admire so much, because you're bound to be disappointed. What I have found is that statement is not true in most situations for the people that I've interviewed at Newsweek, for people that I've loved my entire life. Tom Hanks, Bette Midler, Dolly Parton, like people like that, I'm never disappointed. And but what I am surprised by when I do chat with them and when I do meet with them is that they're just people. They're just regular people and what I loved about my chat with Dolly, even in the bits that you don't see that aren't recorded, of the setup and the little chat we had after we were done recording, and like all of those little moments, is that she wasn't feeling the need to impress me.
Mhm.
She wasn't feeling the need to make me feel any kind of way, because for her in that moment, we both had a job to do. And we were both doing our job. She was promoting an album. I was writing a cover story. And somewhere along the way, my lifelong history of and love of Dolly sneaks in there. I think if you listen, a lot of it sneaks in there. and, 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 and in sort of experiencing Dolly as just a normal person, it made me respect her even more because oftentimes if someone is coming at you in a performative way and they're just trying to make you happy, it can feel like they're trying to dictate the story or they're trying to dictate how I write about them. And she didn't feel the need to do that. And I think that really gets to who Dolly was as a, I hate saying was as a person, in that she she was who she was. She just was who she was. And she didn't feel the need to put on anything to get you to write a certain way or convey her in a certain way, because who she was exactly what she needed. And that was the secret to her success, is that deep down, she's just this accepting, normal, humble person who somehow has this, and I don't know, whatever you believe in, has this God-given gift to connect with people, not only connect with people through what she's doing, but also connect people, meaning that bringing people together in a way that is difficult, I think, for a lot of people, particularly these days. And Dolly did that. And that's sort of what I got over the course of that interview. That was the perception of her as a person.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, I mean, excuse me, you think of Dolly Parton, she screams authenticity, whether it's what in her music, in her attitude, in how she looks and how she dresses. I think she said that actually in the interview, something about advice to younger artists, female artists, and she just said, she quoted the Shakespeare line, just to your own self be true. And that's how she's lived her life. And I think that's the only way she knows how to be. So that
Yeah.
is like the only advice she can give to other people there.
Yeah.
But I imagine for her, and you touched about this in the interview about how it might be difficult. This She's such an icon and everybody loves her, and what that weight must have felt like for her. And I mean, even with this last album, it was rock. It was a little bit different. She was trying things new, and she at the time was 70 years old, um, 70 something years old. So like
Yeah.
it was interesting that she just had this attitude of like, yeah, I'm just gonna, of course, this is what I would do, and I hope it's good, and this is what I like, and these are all the amazing people I've worked with. And I thought that was really interesting, but I'm curious of how you saw that, of what you thought she felt about her legacy
Mm.
and what she and her career and how she was able to continue to work and reinvent herself and bring that joy and that love.
Yeah, that was something that really stood out to me in our chat, was that, you know, there's a line that she said that stays in my head where she goes, for some unbeknownst reason to me, I'm still hot. And I find that to be, that line was so perfect because, and I remember hearing it in person, and like, you know how, I mean, just
Mhm.
for anyone who doesn't know how writers work, like when you're doing a chat and you hear a line like that, you immediately look at the time code, write down the number, and then like you just know that's the line, that's the
Yeah.
moment, because you're always looking for pull quotes and different things. And in this day and age, you're looking for clips and all the things.
Mhm.
Anyway, but when she indicated that, it really stood out to me because there was this genuine surprise that she is as beloved as she is. You
Mhm.
know, and that to me speaks to her humbleness. But like, now she knew her strength. Don't get that wrong. She knew her strength and her ability and what she could do in a room and people's perception of her and how she could use that to do her work and to connect people. But that said, she was very clear in that, like, as long as I got, the drive to do it and the inspiration to do it and the energy to do it, I'm going to keep doing it. And I think that's a real message that I think we can take from that chat, is that you're really only as old as you feel. And
Mhm.
and if you're feeling, and that speaks to not just age, but like your career and how people perceive you and the expectations of what people put on you and all of these different things. If you take that on, well, then you're taking that on. You're making that choice. You can actively make a choice not to take that kind of perception on. And
Mhm.
she actively made that choice to not let the outside world impact the decisions that she made as an artist, as a business person, as a person. And she wasn't going to let anything like age stop her from making a rock album or doing interesting projects or having interesting business ideas. I bought the cake box mix. Like, nothing is going to stop her from doing those things, and I think that's a real lesson that we can take from that conversation, in that no matter what area of the world you exist in, even if it is just like, you know, and I don't mean to say this in a way that's demeaning, but even if it is just like being a housewife with like kids, you still have drive. You have things that make you an interesting, beautiful, amazing person. And Dolly, I think, spoke to that. And that was the source of her popularity, is that she spoke to people like that who were looking for that drive, who wanted to find that drive within through Dolly within themselves in a lot of ways. And I think Dolly really spoke to that.
Oh, absolutely. I think, as a woman looking at her and her entire career from, her humble beginnings and breaking through in not only the music industry, but the country music industry at the time when she did. And, just of course, the sexism and the discrimination that she had to feel just from being a woman and how she's persevered through that. But I think it's just her whole aesthetic of like she takes on this look of underestimated woman that you're not going to take seriously. I mean, she's talked about how her style was really influenced by, the town trollops and prostitutes that she
Mm-hmm.
grew up around, and this
Mm-hmm.
big hair and this crazy stuff that you wouldn't. It was a little corny, it was a little trashy, but like you wouldn't take that seriously.
Yeah.
Normal people wouldn't take that seriously, but she kind of took that on and said, no, I'm going to look how I look. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think to your point, that does inspire everyday people who, find their own style, their own glamour, who have to put up with whatever BS they do. I mean, like 9 to 5 is such a great example of that, of a
Yeah.
film where it's just about a bunch of women being like, well, F you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a woman in this world, in this industry at this time, and I won't be underestimated and I won't be told what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is just has been really, really inspiring as a woman who, again, like you said, has just beyond music has created a business and an empire, and but through it all has maintained who she is and her heart and her core.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's very rare. And I think that's what really makes her stand out and why she's such an inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, a singular force, like I said in my write-up at newsweek.com, like there's never going to be anybody else like Dolly Parton. Like they're just that has the universal reach and appeal in this polarized world we live in. There is nobody else that could do and will do what Dolly Parton was able to do. So I want to ask you, sort of in wrapping this conversation up, like, I want to ask you, one of the interesting things I think when someone as big as Dolly Parton dies, that's still really hard to say,
Yeah.
um, that, that the myth making around who this person was and their legacy going forward starts to take shape,
Mhm.
and a lot of other voices, ours included, start to frame the narrative around who this person is, and it's largely very complimentary, of course, but the things in which she was actively doing and creating and being a part of her own mythology in a lot of ways through Dollywood, the theme park, but also Dolly the musical coming to Broadway later this year. So many different areas of her actively shaping her own narrative after her death, I think is one of the more poignant things about Dolly Parton. So, like, where do you think we go from here with the legacy of Dolly Parton?
Yeah, I think it's hard to wrap your head around. Again, like you said, I'm still it's still hard to think that we have to answer these questions right now. It's still so shocking. But I think to your point, I mean, my first thought was about the musical that's coming. I'm a big theater fan. So obviously I'm always thinking about musicals. And I was like, wow, what it must be so sad for those people that are involved, because they just had this big press and this kickoff of it. But also, what pressure must be put on them now that that is going to be the first real piece of media in a post Dolly world that's about her. I'm sure we'll
Mhm.
see, documentaries and write-ups and articles about the woman that she was, biographies, I'm sure. But this is something that she had such a big hand in.
Yeah,
And, from the casting to obviously the music and the story, and then to have them put this on, to be the kind of first big thing in the world without her is probably really tough. And I think, again, I think because she was so involved in it, I think that was maybe her way of cementing what she wanted her legacy to be. and what
Yeah.
she wanted that story to say. And I'm really glad that she was able to be involved in that because, again, I think those type of sort of like a biopic that would have to come out in many, many years to do that. I think her writing and doing this musical, I think, is going to be a big part of what her legacy is,
Mm.
at least in the short term. But yeah, it's just like a time of too many biopics and too many. We're just kind of flooding the zone of these things. But I think that her music and what she was personally involved in is going to be that legacy. And like I said, I'm going to I'm going to Dollywood
Yeah.
in October. I'm planning a bachelorette trip there. It's gonna be really fun, and I think that is going to teach me a lot, I think, too, about her because she's so involved in that community and her heart and her
Mhm.
soul is in Pigeon Forge and in
Yeah.
Dollywood. And I think that is also where her legacy will be.
Yep.
I mean, Newsweek rated it one of the best workplaces for women in the country. It's one of the highest rated amusement
Yeah.
parks. And it's something that, like you said, is really for everybody. So I think
It's the new
she's
it's the
worked her
new
whole,
Graceland. It's the new
yeah,
Graceland.
it 100% is the new Graceland. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think she's worked her whole career to put a little bit of herself in everything she does, and that's what people will hold on to.
Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about sort of, when Elvis Presley died, it was a tragic death, of course. And of course, Dolly's death is very tragic, but he died too young and of reasons that could have been prevented, whereas Dolly lived an amazing life. And
Mhm.
God, are we so grateful to have been able to not only have things that we can remember it, but to have been a part of it and been alive at the same time as Dolly Parton. And that is a gift that, and of course, I'm so grateful for that hour that I was able to spend with her. It's a very special hour in my life. And so, of course, I'm going to link to that conversation I had with Dolly in the show notes of this episode. And I want to leave things on a little audio clip of Dolly from my chat with Dolly back a couple years ago.
Someone beknownst reason to me, I'm still hot, and so I'm never going to stop. I'm never going to stop dreaming, and as long as I'm healthy, as long as I want to do it, I'm willing to do it, and can get out there and do it, no telling what I might do tomorrow.